What's going on, YouTube? We are back here on the Fumble Pod today. I'm your host, Dalton Lee, and today we're going over our reactions to college football last week, week 7. Had some right, had some wrong, had some interesting news come out after the week was over, so we're going to cover all of it today, and let's just get right into it. So, we're going to go over the games in the orders that they happened. So, first, we're going to start with the first noon game that we got right was Ohio State, number 1, going to Illinois to play Illinois. Now, I thought the game would be closer, and I mean, the score would say it wasn't close. Illinois was fighting. I mean, it was 34-16. Illinois fought for a good bit. They were trying to keep pace, but the Ohio State team, especially that defense, man, they were just wearing down Illinois to where in fourth quarter, Illinois didn't do a whole lot. And it was after fourth quarter, it was all Buckeyes. I mean, Julian Sands, super efficient day. Not a whole lot on the run on the ground game. I mean, they only ran for 2.9 yards. The big difference truly was the defense and the receivers. Carnell Tate had a great day. Jeremiah Smith had a great day. It was really more of a war of attrition game, if you will. I mean, you look at Illinois, they couldn't run the ball. They ran 27 times for 47 yards the whole day. Averaged 1.7 yards per carry. They were forced to pass all day, 44 times. And only 248 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. I mean, that's not a recipe to win at all. I mean, Altmaier had a pick and a fumble. It's just ugly day all around. And that defense didn't really do a whole lot to help them out either. Couldn't force a turnover on Ohio State. We just look at this as pure utter dominance by Ohio State. Just getting out there and just asserting themselves as the best team in college football, which at this point it's kind of hard to argue. Are they the best? I would say right now they are the clear-cut best, at least in all aspects of the game. Sure, there are some teams that have better offense, several at the top that are better, whether it be, you could say A&M, you could say possibly Ole Miss, you could say Oregon, Indiana. They have better offense, but just all around, including defense and special teams, it's Ohio State. And with a freshman quarterback who's only in theory should only get better as the season goes on, as you get into his sophomore year, it is kind of scary just to see what can happen as he develops. Because I mean, it's still only October. We don't know what he's going to look like when we get to December. Could only get better. Maybe the run game finally gets going, and then that's where it all opens up fully. But, just utter dominance out of Ohio State in this one. Illinois' best shot was going to be if they could figure out ways to frustrate that defense, and they really didn't. They were playing one style of game, and it fit to Ohio State's DNA of how they wanted to be. They wanted to be quick 3-and-outs, get our boys back out there on offense, and chew some clock, get scores, war of attrition, kind of like how those Michigan teams with Jim Harbaugh did. Just wear them down, and then at the end just kind of break through, call it a day. And they executed it to a T. I mean, this doesn't mean that Illinois is a bad team by any means. I think Illinois is still a good team, but they're just not. They're not in that tier of your Ohio States, your Oregons, your Georgias, teams like that. But I can see where they're trying to get there. It's just they're not ready yet. We said it last year. We're saying it this year. It is what it is. Got to call a kettle black sometimes. Next, we got number 8 Alabama went to Mizzou. Kind of scrape out of there with a win. I mean, it was 27-24 for a while. Mizzou was up. Bama came back, took the lead. Then Bama was up 2 scores. Mizzou brought it to a field goal, get the stop they need. Missouri had a chance to go down and tie or win the game, and Bo Perbula, game-sealing interception. I mean, what a heartbreaking way to lose at home. To have a chance to tie, go to overtime, or maybe be able to go out and win it, because there was still 40 seconds left when he threw that pick. And if that ball had been caught by an offense player, you're on the 50-yard line. It's like he had a chance. And honestly, Missouri did not play bad. I was worried that it was either going to be close, like it was, or Missouri's the lights were going to get too bright for Missouri and Bam was going to go roll through. But from both sides, both showed great competitiveness. Competitiveness. Ty Simpson was really the game changer. Couldn't really establish a run game with the running back, so he elevated it from the quarterback position along with the passing attack, and they were able to at least get the needed first downs to help give that defense a couple breaks from that Missouri offense. I keep wanting to say Mizzou. I don't know if it rolls off as well, but just all around, Bama played a more clean game than Missouri. And I know when Missouri goes to look at that tape today from this game, Bo Prabula is going to be sick to his stomach when they look back at it and realize that he had a receiver wide open in the flat for a 10-yard gain on that game-sealing interception. So I would be looking to see Bo Prabula take this, soak it in, and be ready for the next time they get thrown into a situation. Whether it be, next week, 3 weeks from now, who knows? But he's only going to learn from it. But I mean, it really was a good game. Just it was a good, enjoyable game to watch, and it's kind of exciting to see some of the quote unquote lower tier, mid tier SEC teams being able to compete with what we would say is the crown jewels of the SEC. Because now it's like, okay, this is what the NIL is for. This is what allows your kind of programs to be able to be like, hey, they can compete with the talent at some of the top tier teams. And now we kind of get to the point of, all right, well, who can make the bigger play and who can outcoach who? Which, I mean, obviously, some teams are always going to have better talent. Ohio State's always going to probably have the best wide receivers in college football. Georgia's probably always going to have the best defense for the most part. That's just is always going to be like that. But if we can get to a point where it's like, yeah, Georgia's got a really good defense, but so does Bama. Missouri's no scrub. Throw in Texas, throw in Oklahoma. Now you're getting more teams that can be competitive versus it being like, okay, well, we already know the SEC is going to be these two schools. It's really going to be, what does the middle of the pack look like? Where now it's like, these middle of the pack schools, if they get one big win, all of a sudden they're up there competing for it. It's exciting. So that's why, I'm not saying the NIL's perfect. It's not. There's still a lot of flaws with how it all is going to work. But the concept of being able to almost rebuild a program overnight to be competitive, kind of like the team we're going to talk about later, Indiana, was able to do within a year and a half. But before we get to that Indiana-Oregon game, we have one more 12 o'clock game. We didn't talk about it last week because I didn't really think there was a need to talk about it. But turns out we were wrong. This is going to be one of three surprising games. Unranked Pitt goes into Tallahassee to play 25 ranked FSU, and they get out of there with a win, 34-31. Florida State has lost now 3 consecutive games. Do you know what consecutively means? It means one right after the other. 3 game weeks, 3 losses. The first one, Virginia, we can look at it and be like, okay, they overlooked them. They thought they were just going to be able to flex their muscle and beat them. They got, shocked in the mouth because they were getting ready for the next game, which was Miami. Miami went out there. I understand final score was 28-22. Miami handled business. Just was in complete control of that game. We're like, okay, Florida State now has to kind of be perfect and have some cards fall their way to get into a potential ACC championship spot. But then you drop this game to Pitt at home. It's one of those things you can't let happen. Granted, I'm not going to sit here and say, it's all on Florida State because, Pitt had a decent day. The quarterback had 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, but he still threw for 321 yards. He ran for another 64. They had a good running attack. They could not guard Desmond Reed. Desmond Reed it felt like anytime the ball was going to him, it was instant catch and yards after catch. Like, he just made this defense look like they didn't know what they were doing, which was kind of insane because FSU's offense was pretty efficient for the most part. I mean, Castellanos wasn't high in completion percentages, but I mean, if you're 16 for 23, 245 yards and three touchdowns with no picks, and I mean, he had the one fumble, but he didn't lose it. So, I mean, they really only they had one turnover on the day. I mean, if you look through and through, their defense outplayed Pitt's, and like, it's one of those games that if you look back at the box score, you're like, there's no way Florida State should lose this. But Florida State just had more miscues than Pitt did through and through the game, and Pitt was able to capitalize when Florida State had miscues, and that's why they were able to go out and get the win. Now you're looking at a Florida State team that's 3-3. You know, this is the second year in a row where Mike Norvell hasn't really done a whole lot. Sure, they beat Alabama, which you would still say is a great win, but at the same time, you can beat Bama, but you can't beat Virginia or Pitt. It's one of those things where now we look back and we go, was Florida State really even that good, or did they just catch Bama sleeping at the right time? And it's starting to look more and more like they just caught Bama sleeping at the right time. It's just, it was just an ugly, ugly game, ugly loss for Florida State through and through. And yet, it's still probably not the worst upset of the day, I would say, because even though they're unranked, they were unranked going into this game. They're going to be unranked still after. Penn State at home lost to Northwestern. Northwestern had won one game. It's almost like when they played UCLA last week, who had won 0 games. So within 2 weeks, they had played two teams that had a combined record of 1-8, 1-9, and you lose both. It's just, I don't know what the deal is with Penn State. Obviously, they think they know what the issue is. They think it's James Franklin because as of today, or maybe it might have been yesterday, I saw it. I think it was yesterday on Sunday. They fired him, relieved him of his duties. Which, I mean, I don't think James Franklin is super worried about. They still got to pay him like 30, 40 something $1 million in that coach buyout. So he still got his bag, but at the same time, he's kind of like the Justin Herbert of coaches. You know, if he had a quarterback, if he was able to have a receiver, all these things that we keep saying, if he had this or if he had that, they'd be really good. Well, then why doesn't he just go get them? And I understand Drew Aller got hurt in this game, but Drew Aller got hurt late into the game, at the point to where Northwestern was already winning the game. Sure, Drew Aller might have made the difference in maybe a late heroic comeback, but I mean, this Penn State team, and it's so weird because you look at them from top to bottom, and you just see that they have talent at a lot of positions. I mean, outside of wide receiver, they don't have a lot of holes in this team. Whereas you look at Northwestern, they obviously don't have a lot going for them in the right directions. Outside of the fact that they wanted it more, straight up, this was one of those games where it's like Northwestern just wanted to come out and fight with everything they had, and Penn State thought maybe they'd be able to finally roll a team, and they haven't. They hadn't rolled a team all year, and now they're in their rebuild era. I mean, James Franklin's gone. Who knows what's going to happen with the rest of the coaching staff? Who knows what's going to happen with the rest of the recruitment class? I mean, I already saw a outside linebacker 4-star. I can't remember his name. Was supposed to be going on a visit soon to Penn State, and he not only just canceled the visit, but has decommitted. So I understand it's just a 4-star outside linebacker, but he may be the first. He may not be the first. But I guarantee you, he won't be the last one to be like, whoa. Because more so than not, players commit to coaching staffs more so than programs. Some will commit to programs just because of the program. If a receiver wants to be good, he's going to commit to Ohio State. He doesn't really care who's coaching just because Ohio State is wide receiver U. If a kid that's really good has a chance to go play at Alabama and that's his favorite school, he's going to go play at Alabama. But some kids are like, I want the best coaching staff to develop me so I can be good and go pro. And a lot of people thought, James Franklin still was always a good recruiter. He always brought in good recruiting classes. But now we're at the point where, yeah, he'll bring a good. We're almost looking at him like we did Mario Cristobal for a while, or Billy Napier right now. Great recruits, always up there in talent, but can you execute on the field? And it's always been the biggest knock on James Franklin. He is 2-19 in top 10 opponent matchups in the Big Ten. Two of them. In 12 years, he's won 2 top 10 matchups. And that's just in the Big Ten. Who knows how many he has outside of the Big Ten? I mean, if you even look at the college football playoff last year, their 2 playoff game wins was a lower seeded SMU at Penn State, which they rolled, and then Boise State, who really the offense was just Ashton Jeanty. You take him out of the game, they're not doing a whole lot. And then what happened when they played Notre Dame? Notre Dame got him. Notre Dame got him. I understand the game was close. Notre Dame got him. So I'm interested to see where Penn State goes next in terms of who's going to be the head coach of that team. There's already been some names thrown around, Obviously, the one name I hate hearing is Manny Diaz. He was the defense coordinator up there for a little bit, had really good defense. They got ties. I hope Manny Diaz doesn't go because then we're just starting over again. But there's a chance Manny Diaz gets up there. They might try to call some of these bigger guys. Signetti at Indiana, maybe, just because Penn State has deeper pockets. But I don't know if he wants to leave Indiana yet because they're coming off of a very big win. Number 7 Indiana goes into number 3 Oregon. Go to Eugene, and they've dominated the game. Final score was only 30-20, but they dominated the game. They did the one thing that, I will say, pat myself on the back a little. I said the one way they were going to be able to win this game, even though we still predicted Oregon to win, they were going to have to run the ball and be physical. And what did they do? They had 37 carries for 111 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And even then, Mendoza still had a decent day passing. He had the pick, but when they needed to make a play in the pass game, he was able to. When watching that game, it was almost like anytime Oregon tried to make a change in their defense, Indiana was just be able to be like, oh, you're taking that away? Well, we're going to go to this now. And then when Oregon would take that away, they'd go to something else. So Oregon was outcoached because I wouldn't say necessarily Indiana has better talent. They have really good talent that can compete at this level. But Indiana was physical, more physical than Oregon. They attacked the weakness of the Oregon defense effectively, and they outcoached them. Kurt Signetti, what he's done at Indiana has been remarkable. He's been in the program only a year and a half. Last year we were saying that Indiana probably should have been a playoff team, and they just missed it. This year we're looking at them as not only a playoff team, might be one of the top 4 teams in the country at this point. I mean, they just beat number 3 Oregon as number 7 ranked team. Who's to say that they can't make that jump and continue to track on being a top 4 program? Because you look at the rest of Indiana's schedule, they don't have to play an Ohio State or a Michigan this year. The only quote-unquote big game they had left after this was Penn State, but Drew Aller's out for the rest of the year. James Franklin's gone. They shouldn't lose to Penn State. They kind of got an easy path to go undefeated to the Big Ten Championship where they'll have a chance to compete against Ohio State. And I think regardless of whether they win or lose, they're into the college football playoff, no doubt. It'll just be a matter of if they win, do they get a top 4 seed? If they lose, do they still get a lower end of the 4 seeds or maybe a 5 or 6 seed? But all in all, Indiana played great. That defense was phenomenal. They had Dante Moore just in shambles. Oregon couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass effectively. They would pop off a couple big plays, but that was it. They were mainly kept in check. And Dante Moore, a guy that I was praising very highly. I thought he had been really good and really sharp for most of the year. Even when he kind of staggered a little bit against Penn State 3 weeks ago and was able to come back and lead them to win, he looked lost in this game, to say the least. He looked very, very lost. And that's just, it's truly like we got to give flowers to Kurt Signetti in Indiana for believing in him, for the players to believe in him, and going out there and executing their game plan to a T. To a T. Man, I'm telling you, this week in football was just great. It was a great, great week. Because the next game we're talking about, Oklahoma going to Texas. Hook 'em. Oklahoma catches the L in a game that had a lot of question marks on it and was just all around. It was an interesting matchup. We predicted Oklahoma to win. They didn't. Mainly because I just thought Oklahoma's defense was going to be superb and they were going to be able to figure out some type of run game and offense, maybe make a play on defense that would turn into some offense. John Mateer did play, and he played poorly. Now, I don't know if it's because he's still coming off of the hand surgery. Maybe he got rushed back too quick. I mean, he played 17 days after getting the surgery done, or after breaking it. So we can say that he was rushed, but I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say it was the fact that his accuracy was off or he couldn't throw the ball with efficient force. He just made bad decisions all day. It seemed like anywhere he was throwing the ball, it was to wide receivers that had two or three Longhorns around them. And tip balls turned into interceptions. Late balls turned into interceptions. And obviously they couldn't run the ball. Even with him, he didn't run the ball. He ran the ball 14 times for 5 yards. Granted, some of those numbers are because he did get sacked a good amount of times. I actually don't even know how many times he got sacked. I feel like it was quite a bit. Texas on the day had 5 sacks on Mateer. Big day for that defensive line. And, I mean, that was really the story. That Texas defense came to play after the performance they had against Florida. They looked rough against Florida. They came out and answered. They shut down the run. They made Mateer turn the ball over, which then turned around to Texas getting more chances. And I feel like they finally were able to get into a rhythm. They ran the ball for 130 yards. Arch Manning actually had, not statistically, but just eye test, one of his best days. I mean, he was 21 for 27, only 166 yards. He had a touchdown, no turnovers. I mean, just a true clean day from him. And that's all you need. You don't need him to be Superman. If he can be highly efficient, keep the offense moving, both on the ground or through the air game, this team's going to be really good. And now with this win for Texas, they're obviously back in the top 25. They're now 2-1 in the SEC. Right? 2-1? I think so. Or 1-1. There's now kind of a path opening up for them to maybe sneak into the playoff. Maybe this will be a game where they can catch their rhythm and kind of just weasel their way in there. And the schedule for, I don't want to say the most part is favorable. It's more favorable than Oklahoma's. But Texas will have to play both A&M and Georgia in their last 3 weeks of the season. They got to hope that being able to go into A&M, they're 9-2, which would mean they'd have to win 5 straight. And if they can get into A&M and lose, they may have an argument for being a 9-3 team to get in. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for them. But I think Texas all around had a great game today. Offense, defense, special teams. Oklahoma, you got to figure out a run game just to A, help your quarterback. I think Mateer is a really good quarterback, but the issue is he is just the offense. So if he's having a bad day, you don't have anything else on offense to bounce back from that besides maybe the defense getting a turnover that turns into points. But those come far and few in between. But shout out Texas. They might be back. Still early to say that, but they might be back. And then this is the last game I'm going to touch on. This was the last game I touched on last week. NC State, Notre Dame. So we picked right. We picked Notre Dame to win. They did 36-7. State did not cover the spread, which I'm going to be honest, to start in the end of the first half, I had faith. I had really good faith in them covering the spread because it was only 10-7. I was like, hey, State is, in theory, a play away from tying or taking this lead. In the defense, that one thing I was worried about for State was the defense. The defense in the first half actually played pretty good. Granted, I felt like Notre Dame was shooting themselves in the foot a lot. They had 2 fourth downs that they went for and didn't get because it was the same play. They would roll out right to short side of the field. Nothing would open. A rusher would get through, and it was either an incomplete pass or getting tackled in the backfield. But second half rolled around. Notre Dame, that defense showed up, made Bailey and that offense have a turnover or two, and then from there was when the offense of Notre Dame woke up between Jeremiah Love, C.J. Carr, and they just kind of rolled from there to a point where anytime Notre Dame touched the ball, they can kind of do whatever they want. They put up a lot of points quickly, and then from there just kind of chewed clock to finish the game. Plus, it helps when State does give you, I think, 2 possessions where you start on the plus side of the field. It's not a recipe to win. If you're a State fan, A, you were delusional if you were going into this game saying you had a realistic shot of winning. But I don't know if I would fully panic yet. I still like what Hollywood Smothers has going on. I like what CJ Bailey has going on. Seems like CJ has a good connection with Tyrell Anderson and Jolie, the tight end. And Smothers and the offensive line still have been, for the most part, pretty good this year. They didn't look great in that game. Granted, it's Notre Dame we're talking about here. It's always going to be a world-class defense. They're on a bye week this week. I would definitely take the bye week to clean up the offensive line, give Bailey some more confidence because I think you kind of tell the confidence was kind of up and down, and work on the defense. I think the biggest thing would be the defense. If the defense can give you your offense more possessions, in theory, that should be more opportunities to score, which should be more points, which is only going to give your offense more confidence. Especially in the fact of you're like, hey, we just scored here. Defense is going to get the ball back, and we're going to do it again. But again, that's trying to play complementary football. And State, for the most part this year, hasn't really done that a whole lot. They did it against Wake Forest, but that was really about it. So all around, it was a really good weekend of college football. Couple big upsets, couple big games. I'm excited, looking forward to this week. There are a couple big games that I'm excited to get into. One in my neck of the woods, noon kickoff, play number 12, Georgia Tech at home. I'm excited to go over those. But that is all I got for my reactions today. So, if you're new here, hit subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification so you know when we post. If you have any comments, throw them down below. I'm trying to get a little more engaged with everybody. So if you got anything you want to talk about, throw it down below. Let's get it going. But until next time, deuces.